Hey everyone, welcome to Stories on Coins channel. Guys, what if I told you that a seemingly ordinary coin, perhaps one you're holding in your pocket right now, could unlock an entire era filled with Vikings, explorers, and battles for freedom you never knew about? Do you know which European navigator first entered New York Harbor long before the English? And why the smallest US state might be linked to a Greek island? Can you imagine that this same state was the first in North America to pass a law against slavery? How did the tiniest colony become a haven for all the persecuted? And what's the connection between the mysterious Viking Vinland and the American coast? Today, we're going to unravel these and many other secrets revealed by one seemingly unremarkable coin. Get comfortable, because thanks to our lecture, you're guaranteed to fall asleep. But not from boredom, but from incredible discoveries that will leave you deep in thought. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new fascinating stories. Today, I will tell you a lot of interesting facts and legends. It all started with the fact that I got my hands on one, at first glance, a completely ordinary coin. Well, such an American quarter, 25 cents. But this coin turned out to be not just a quarter, but a real key to a whole world of discoveries, adventures, and ancient legends.
Like a regular American quarter, 25 cents. But this coin turned out to be more than just a quarter. It was a real key to a whole world of discoveries, adventures, and ancient legends. Can you believe it? It was a Rhode Island State Quarter, minted in 2001. You've probably heard about that famous 50 State Quarters series that the U.S. Mint released from 1999 to 2008, right? 5 coins every year, each with a unique design dedicated to one of the 50 states. And Rhode Island, it turns out, was the 13th state to ratify the U.S. Constitution way back on May 29, 1790. Its quarter was the second one issued in 2001. So what kind of coin is this? Its face value was 25 cents, or a quarter of a US dollar. It was minted in 2001. It's made of a copper-nickel alloy, specifically a pure copper core coated with a copper-nickel alloy, which is 75% copper and 25% nickel. It weighs 5.67 grams, has a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, and is only 1.75 millimeters thick. The edge is reeded, grooved, and of course it's round. On the front, or obverse, as numismatists say, you'll see the standard image of the first U.S. president, George Washington, designed by William Cousins. Above it, United States of America. Below, quarter dollar. To the left, liberty, and to the right, in God we trust. There should also be a mint mark somewhere, D for Denver or P for Philadelphia, but you can't see it in the photo. But the really interesting stuff is on the back, the reverse. This features a unique design dedicated to Rhode Island. So what's pictured there? An old sailing yacht cruising on the waters of Narragansett Bay. In the background, a bit blurry, you can see the Pell Bridge and the Jamestown-Verrazano Bridge. Below the yacht is the year 2001 and the national motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. And all around the top, it says Rhode Island and 1790, the year the state ratified the Constitution. And of course, in the center right is the state motto, the Ocean State.
And this is where it gets exciting. Why this particular design? The choice isn't random, it's deeply symbolic for Rhode Island. A sailing yacht. Why a yacht? Because Rhode Island has always been inextricably linked to the sea. It's a hub for sailing and maritime trade. The city of Newport in Rhode Island is rightfully considered the sailing capital of the world. Just think about it. For many years, the America's Cup, that super prestigious international regatta, was held right there. So the yacht on the coin symbolizes the deep maritime traditions and the immense economic importance of the sea to the state. And the bridges, Pell and Jamestown-Verrazano, they're not just there by chance. These are iconic structures in Rhode Island that connect different parts of Narragansett Bay. They symbolize connection, infrastructure, and the state's modern development, and of course, its coastal location. And the Ocean State? That's the official state motto after all. It emphasizes its geographic position and its very strong connection to the Atlantic Ocean. Rhode Island, even though it's the smallest U.S. state by area, is known for its many bays, coves, and a really long coastline. Can you imagine, the design of this quarter was chosen by the residents of Rhode Island themselves, through a poll conducted by the governor. There were many options, but the maritime theme won out because it best reflects the state's identity. By the way, about the designer, the reverse of this Rhode Island coin was designed and engraved by U.S. Mint sculptor-engraver Thomas D. Rogers Sr. He actually worked on other quarters in the 50 State Quarter series too. Now, let's dive into the history of Rhode Island itself. The full name of the state is State of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. And yes, it's the smallest U.S. state by area. But what a significant one! It's one of the 13 original colonies founded in North America. And it was founded in 1636 by an amazing person, Roger Williams. He was banished from the Massachusetts Bay Colony for his religious views. Just imagine, at a time when strict Puritan rules prevailed in other colonies, Williams advocated for the separation of church and state and defended the rights of Native Americans. Rhode Island became a true refuge for those seeking religious freedom and quickly gained a reputation for its progressive policies. From its very beginning, Rhode Island was a maritime center. Its deep ports and access to the Atlantic Ocean made it a key player in trade, shipbuilding, and, unfortunately, even the transatlantic slave trade. Although, very importantly, Rhode Island was one of the first to pass laws against slavery.
The historic city of Newport, as I mentioned, was one of the most important ports in colonial America and remains a significant maritime center to this day. It's also famous for its stunning Gilded Age architecture and, of course, its role in global sailing. The motto, Ocean State, was officially adopted in 1971. It reflects the state's more than 640 kilometers of coastline and its reliance on marine resources and tourism. Now, the most intriguing question: how much is such a quarter worth to collectors? State quarters are, of course, one of the most mass-produced and popular coin series in U.S. history. Billions of specimens were minted for each state. Speaking of typical value, most Rhode Island quarters from 2001 that are in circulation don't have a numismatic value higher than their face value. That is, 25 cents. You can find them in your change, and they're used as regular money. On the secondary market, like eBay, these coins usually go for 30 to 50 cents, sometimes up to $1 if the seller charges for packaging or sells them in sets. But there's also unusual value for truly collectible specimens. Coins in UNC condition, meaning uncirculated, those that have never been in circulation and have retained their original luster and all details, can be worth more. Prices for such UNC specimens range from $1 to $5 USD, depending on the quality on the Sheldon scale, like MS60, MS65, and so on. Even more expensive are proof coins. These coins are specially minted for collectors using polished planchets and dies. They have a mirror-like field and frosted relief. They look really beautiful. Rhode Island quarters were issued in proof sets from San Francisco. They have an S mint mark and are significantly more expensive than regular ones. Their value can be from $5 to $20 USD and higher, again, depending on the year and the set. And of course, the most valuable are coins with mint errors. Like any mass series, state quarters can have rare errors such as double die, off-center strike, or plating errors. Such coins can be worth tens, hundreds, or even thousands of dollars, but they are, of course, extremely rare. There are also varieties where there are small differences in the die design that aren't errors but make the coin rarer.
However, for state quarters, such noticeable varieties are also very rare. So overall, the 2001 Rhode Island Quarter is an interesting piece for collectors who are putting together a complete 50-state quarters program or are just interested in U.S. history. But with the exception of coins in perfect condition or with rare errors, most of them don't have high financial value. Their main value is historical and educational. Since we're talking about the 50-state quarters program, let's go deeper into it. This program, my friends, became one of the most successful numismatic programs in U.S. history. It really revived interest in coin collecting, both among adults and children. It was launched by the U.S. Mint in 1999 and continued until 2008. The main idea was to release 50 unique 25-cent coins, each dedicated to one of the 50 U.S. states. How were they released? In the order of the state's ratification of the U.S. Constitution or their admission to the Union. So Delaware was first, as it was the first to ratify the Constitution, and Hawaii was last. 5 new quarters were released each year at roughly equal intervals. The coolest thing about this program is, of course, the unique design of the reverse of each coin. The obverse, with George Washington, remained standard for all 50 quarters. But each state could propose its own design options, which had to symbolize its unique history, geography, cultural heritage, or state symbols. The design was approved by the state governor, as well as the Commission of Fine Arts and the Citizens Coinage Advisory Committee, and only then by the Secretary of the Treasury. The quarters were minted at 2 main U.S. mints for circulation, Philadelphia, P, and Denver, D, and special collectible versions were issued at the San Francisco Mint, S. This program became a real phenomenon. Millions of people across the country, including kids, actively collected these coins. This, by the way, greatly contributed to the growth of interest in numismatics and education, as the coins literally told stories about the diversity and history of each state. Collectors often put together complete sets, including specimens from different mints. I'll give you a couple of examples of designs so you can see how varied and interesting they were. I'll definitely make a detailed video about each of them. The 1999 Delaware Quarter. It features Caesar Rodby, a hero of the Revolutionary War, riding on horseback. The 1999 Pennsylvania Quarter depicts the Commonwealth statue and the outline of the state. The 2000 Virginia Quarter is very beautiful. On it, you'll see the first 3 ships that arrived in Jamestown. The 2001 New York Quarter features the most famous statue in the world, the Statue of Liberty, the outline of the state, and 11 stars. The state was the 11th to join. And of course, our Rhode Island, 2001, a sailing yacht and bridges, which we've already talked about. After the main 50-state quarters program finished in 2008, its success was so overwhelming that it led to the launch of several follow-ups. The District of Columbia and U.S. Territories Quarters Program, 2009, a series of 6 quarters dedicated to the Federal District of Columbia and U.S. territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, American Samoa, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and the Northern Mariana Islands. The America the Beautiful Quarters Program, 2010, 2021, an even larger program that issued quarters dedicated to national parks and other national landmarks in the U.S. This series had a whopping 56 coins. So the 50-state quarters program left a huge mark on American numismatics, making coin collecting popular and adding an educational and aesthetic element to everyday currency.
Let's go back to our yacht on the Rhode Island coin. It's not just a drawing. While the coin doesn't specify the exact name of the vessel, and this image is stylized as an old sailing yacht, it clearly references Rhode Island's rich maritime history. After all, the state has historically been closely linked to the sea. It's a major center for sailing and maritime trade. The symbolism of this yacht is simply immense. Sailing, as I mentioned, Newport is the world capital of sailing. The America's Cup, one of the most prestigious regattas in the world, was held there for many years. The image of the yacht on the coin directly points to this famous association and the importance of sailing to the state's identity. Maritime trade and economy. From its very founding, Rhode Island was an important maritime center. Its deep ports and strategic location on the Atlantic coast fostered the development of trade and shipbuilding. Vessels like the one depicted on the coin were the backbone of the state's economy in colonial times and after independence. Exploration and adventure. Sailing vessels also symbolized the spirit of exploration and adventure that was characteristic of Rhode Island's first settlers and sailors. Connection to water. The state's official motto, the Ocean State, emphasizes Rhode Island's deep connection to the ocean and its coastal location. The yacht on the coin is a clear embodiment of this connection. So, the sailing yacht on the Rhode Island Quarter isn't just a picture, it's a powerful symbol that brings together the state's historical, economic, and cultural heritage, emphasizing its unbreakable link to the sea. And now, friends, buckle up because we're going on a journey through time related to that very Narragansett Bay where the yacht is pictured. Did you know that, according to one theory, the legendary Vinland was located on the shores of Narragansett Bay? Narragansett Bay is a huge bay stretching southeast from the state of Rhode Island. It holds immense historical and cultural significance for the entire region. The first European visit to this bay, as you rightly noted, happened in 1524. At that time, the Italian navigator Giovanni da Verrazzano, serving the King of France, explored the eastern coast of North America. He was looking for a western sea route to Asia, to China and Japan, as they said back then. He sailed on a ship called La Dauphine. It was a caravel, well-equipped for a long ocean voyage, with a crew of about 50 people. Initially, Verrazzano planned to sail with 4 ships, but due to a strong storm, 2 sunk and 1 returned to port. Ultimately, on January 17, 1524, La Dauphine sailed alone from a small uninhabited island near Madeira. There were enough provisions and equipment on board for 8 months. La Dauphine's voyage along the eastern coast of North America became the first documented European exploration of such a significant part of this coastline. In early March 1524, La Dauphine reached the coast of North Carolina, presumably near Cape Fear. From there, Verrazzano turned north, meticulously exploring the coastline, mapping many bays, inlets, and river mouths that were previously unknown to Europeans.
Among his key discoveries, Pamlico Sound in North Carolina, he initially mistakenly thought it was part of the Pacific Ocean, separated only by a narrow strip of land. New York Harbor. Verrazzano was the first European to see and enter New York Harbor. He described it as a very beautiful harbor capable of holding a huge fleet. True, he didn't realize the true scale and potential of this mouth of the Hudson River. By the way, the bridge connecting Brooklyn and Staten Island is named after him, the Verrazzano Narrows Bridge. And, of course, Narragansett Bay. It was here that Verrazzano spent about 2 weeks interacting with the locals and describing the picturesque and fertile lands. There's even a theory that Verrazzano himself, seeing a large island in Narragansett Bay, found it very similar to the Greek island of Rhodes in the Aegean Sea, and gave it the name Rod, from which the name of the state of Rhode Island came. Although there's an alternative theory that the Dutchman Adrian Block gave it this name because of the reddish hue of its clay banks. La Dauphine continued north, exploring the New England coast and reaching the Gulf of Maine, up to approximately 46 degrees north latitude. Further north was impossible due to dwindling supplies. Thus, Verrazzano was the first to explore a huge section of the eastern North American coast between 34 degrees and 46 degrees north latitude. Safely returning to France in July 1924, He landed in Dieppe. From Dieppe, Verrazzano sent a detailed letter to King Francis I outlining all his discoveries and observations of the ocean. The monarch was extremely interested in the findings, considering these new lands his rightful possessions. Although Verrazzano didn't find a western route to Asia, his expedition on La Dauphine significantly expanded Europeans' geographical knowledge of North America, providing the first detailed description of the eastern coast and laying the groundwork for further French claims to these territories. Returning to Narragansett Bay, it was on its shores that a colony was founded, which later became the smallest U.S. state, yet had immense significance for the development of religious freedom principles in America. The founding of the colony is linked to Roger Williams, whom I already mentioned. As a Baptist, he was banished from the Puritan Massachusetts Bay Colony in 1636 for his radical views, including calls for the separation of church and state and the protection of Native American rights. He bought land from the Narragansett tribe on a point in Narragansett Bay by the Moshassuck River. He named this place Providence Plantations, meaning God's providence, seeing God's will in his salvation and finding a new home. Providence quickly became a refuge for religious dissidents persecuted in other New England colonies: Quakers, Baptists, Huguenots, Jews, Anglicans, and Catholics. This led to Rhode Island becoming known as a colony with unprecedented religious tolerance and freedom for its time. Neighboring Puritans even nicknamed it the Sewer of New England due to such a diversity of beliefs. Soon, other settlements were founded. In 1638, colonists bought Rhode Island from the Native Americans, where they established Portsmouth and Newport. And in 1642, Warwick was founded. In 1644, these settlements united to form the colony Rhode Island and Providence Plantations, which is still the full official name of the state.
And here's another interesting fact. On May 18, 1652, Rhode Island became the first in North America to pass a law prohibiting slavery. Although in practice, the slave trade in the state didn't stop immediately, it was a very important declarative step, highlighting progressive tendencies in the colony. And finally, the most intriguing part, the legendary Vinland. There's a very interesting hypothesis about the connection of Narragansett Bay to Vinland, a land in North America discovered by Vikings around 1000 AD. Legendary Vinland is the name that Scandinavian Vikings gave to a region in North America believed to have been discovered and briefly settled by them around 1000 AD. Information about Vinland is mainly drawn from two key Icelandic sagas, Eric the Red Saga and the Saga of the Greenlanders. The name Vinland is usually translated as land of grapes from the Old Norse vin, wine, grape. This is related to descriptions in the sagas that speak of a large amount of wild grapes growing in this new land. But there's also an alternative theory that vin could be from the Old Norse vin, meaning pasture or meadow, which also fits the fertile lands described in the sagas. It's believed that the first European to set foot on North American soil, besides Greenland, was Leif Erikson, Eric the Red's son. Around 1000 AD, after Bjarni Herjolfsson had previously sighted unfamiliar lands but didn't land, Leif embarked on an expedition to explore these territories. During his journey, he discovered three main areas, which he named Helluland, land of flat stones, probably Baffin Island in modern Canada; Markland, forest land, presumably part of Labrador; and Vinland, land of grapes or land of pastures, the southmost and most fertile area where the Vikings found wild grapes and other resources. The sagas describe the Vikings' attempts to establish settlements in Vinland. The most famous is the settlement founded by Thorfinn Karlsefni, Leif Eriksson's brother-in-law. They built several houses, wintered there, and tried to trade with the locals, whom the Vikings called Skrælings. But relations with the indigenous people,
presumably ancestors of the Inuit or other Native American tribes, were complex and often escalated into conflicts. These clashes, as well as logistical difficulties and the long journey from Greenland, ultimately led to the Vikings being unable to establish a permanent and successful settlement in Vinland. Their stay there was brief, possibly only a few years. For centuries, Vinland was considered just a legend. But in the 1960s, Norwegian explorer Helge Ingstad and his wife archaeologist Anne Stein Ingstad made a groundbreaking discovery. They found the remains of a Norse settlement at Lonso Meadows in northern Newfoundland, Canada. Archaeological excavations confirmed the presence of remnants of several buildings similar to Greenlandic and Icelandic structures of that period, as well as various artifacts, iron ship rivets, a bronze pin, tools characteristic of the Vikings. Lonso Meadows is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is the only undisputed archaeological evidence of pre-Columbian European settlements in North America. While Lonso Meadows was likely part of Vinland in a broader sense, or one of its camps, scholars believe that the true Vinland, rich in grapes, must have been further south, where the climate would have been more suitable for wild grape growth. This is why theories rise about possible southern locations, such as Narragansett Bay, although they remain a subject of scientific debate and lack direct archaeological confirmation like Lonso Meadows. So Vinland is not just a myth, but a confirmed story of early European contact with North America, representing a fascinating chapter in the history of human exploration and adaptation. And to conclude, let's remember again how Rhode Island joined the United States. It happened through the ratification of the U.S. Constitution. Rhode Island, initially a colony that highly valued its autonomy and religious freedom, hesitated for a long time and was the last of the 13 original states to ratify the U.S. Constitution. The state was concerned about losing sovereignty and feared federal power. It even boycotted the Philadelphia Constitutional Convention in 1787. However, under pressure from economic factors, for example, the possibility of a trade boycott by other states and the threat that the U.S. government would treat it as a foreign nation, Rhode Island eventually agreed to ratification. This happened on May 29, 1790, and as I said, Rhode Island was the 13th, meaning the last, of the original states to ratify the U.S. Constitution. So there you have it, friends, the story. From one little coin to ancient Vikings, the first European explorers, the establishment of religious freedom, and the formation of the United States. It's just incredible how much one little piece of metal can tell.